Our guest speaker this morning is a 1973 graduate of Randolph Central School. He holds a Bachelor's of Science degree in Animal Science from Cornell University and a Bachelor's of Science degree in Accounting summa cum laude from the State University of New York, Fredonia. He worked with the New York Dairy Herd Improvement Cooperative with international CPA firm BDO Seidman as a certified public accountant, and then as vice president of finance for 2 local corporations. After the fall of the Soviet Union in the 1990s, he was a member of the delegation of financial professionals to Russia and Estonia. He is now a writer and a speaker on the topic of liberty, free markets, entrepreneurship, and economic effects of public policy. Late in May, he will travel to Ghana and Nigeria to teach at the Youth Liberty and Entrepreneurship Camp, to meet with business owners and to participate in a roundtable discussion. I now present you Mr. Daniel McLaughlin.
Thank you, Commander. Thank you, Randolph American Legion, Post 181, for inviting me here this morning. I am certainly humbled and honored. Thank all of you for coming to this solemn ceremony of remembrance this morning, in spite of the chilly weather. I love America. It's an amazing place with snow-capped mountains, with vast forests, with sparkling seashores. But it's not the geography that I love. The America that I love, the America that is great in a timeless, universal way, is an idea. It's the idea that every person has rights that are innate, not granted by government decree, and thus not alienable, not forfeitable by government decree. I am proud of America, the land of the free and the home of the brave. What a profound thought that is. America is the land of the free because it was the first and still the only nation in the world that establishes individual rights as superior to government rights, that limits the role and power of government. The founders of this country weren't just hillbillies from a backwater colony. They were brilliant, educated men who in fact engaged in the greatest political experiment in history. And that experiment was a brilliant success. The people, the individuals, were free to fail, and thus free to succeed, free to live their own lives, and to cooperate in voluntary cooperation. America prospered and became great because Americans themselves were free. We come together today to remember those who have been taken from us too soon in service to that idea, and to show our deepest gratitude to those who now serve or who have served, who have kept in mind those principles that motivated our earliest soldiers, the notion that people should be free. They have served with a promise to protect and uphold the Constitution of the United States from all enemies, foreign and domestic. They have gone to battle with a firm belief that they were fighting for freedom. For those of you who may not be familiar with my writing, my focus is often on liberty, on free markets and free people, and the economic implications of public policy. Freedom is what made this country great. It is what makes this and any nation prosperous. Freedom works for everyone. Most of the poor in free countries are much better off than the average person throughout the whole world. I am going to be traveling this Thursday to Africa, where I will be teaching at the Youth Liberty and Entrepreneurship Camp in Kumasi, Ghana. I will be talking with some business people there. I will be participating in a round table. I do have a background in business and finance and accounting, but there are certainly people who are more technically qualified than I am. They invited me because they are clamoring for the message that I bring. The only way known to bring about a general, broad-based prosperity in any society in all of history is through economic freedom, property rights, the rule of law, and accountability and limitation of the power of politicians and bureaucrats. All of the things that are embedded in America's foundation. That's an amazing insight. George Ayittey, an economist from Ghana, has said, Africa is poor because she is not free. While each country is different, that is essentially the case. But there does seem to be an awakening there. I actually expect some great things coming out of Africa in the next 10 or 20 years. Yes, there are still corrupt socialist bureaucracies that stifle progress. There are still some violent dictators who don't want to see progress in their people because prosperous, educated people can resist. They still have a long way to go, but many of the countries are at least headed in the right direction. People are hungry for the dream of liberty. They want to be set free, to run their own lives, to be free from dependency, and free to prosper. Again, for those of you who aren't familiar with my writing, I don't have much love for the political machine that our government has become. We are definitely headed in the wrong direction. It doesn't matter whether it's Republicans or Democrats who control the White House, or the Senate, or the House of Representatives. People who call themselves liberals and people who call themselves conservatives both seek to lord it over their subjects, even if using different methods and targeting different segments of the population. Government has grown to alarming proportions over the decades, both in size and power over the lives of people. Much of the world is getting more free, but the United States is actually regressing in an objective and measurable way. In the various indexes of economic freedom, the United States is falling in the rankings. America is getting less free. Both parties reach their tentacles into the politics of foreign nations, making enemies around the world. We cannot possibly meet all of the many trillions of dollars of obligations that our politicians are saddling taxpayers with. We are headed toward economic disaster with Greece and Spain and so many other bankrupt European nations as a pattern. But even worse, the rights of individuals are coming under attack on a daily basis. The police in many areas are being militarized, with weapons of war being used against American citizens on their own property on an increasing basis. We are facing an enemy from within, but that enemy is not a person. That enemy is not a political group. That enemy is an idea. It is an idea that is directly opposed and antagonistic to the one which so many of our fellow Americans sacrificed to preserve. It is one that has caused and is causing the downfall of so many countries. It is the idea that government is the savior, that it is the caretaker, that it is the master technician, and we the people are the dependent flock, the helpless masses needing to be saved from ourselves. People put absolute trust in politicians to do the right things, yet our legislators pass bills that are more than 2,000 pages long, written by corrupt lobbyists and special interest groups, never having read them. They were derelict in their most fundamental duty or complicit in the corruption. The rules and regulations of just the federal government are now estimated at over 160,000 pages. And people under the sway of the new idea want them to do more to keep us safe. But as Benjamin Franklin warned so long ago, they who give up essential liberty for a little bit of temporary safety deserve and will soon have neither. True wisdom is timeless, and over 2,000 years ago, Roman statesman Marcus Tullius Cicero had this to say: the more laws, the less justice. Plato put it a different way. He said, good people do not need laws to make them responsible, and bad people will find a way to get around the laws. Politicians make lots of laws, not to protect people, but to bind them, to make them less free, and giving advantage to people who support them. If we are to respect the legacy that was passed on to us by brave men and women who defended freedom before us, some who are buried in this very cemetery, if we are to have our young men and women in uniform put their lives on the line for us, today and in the future, we owe it to them to do everything in our power to change the course of this country, to head it back in the right direction, to start to cherish freedom for its own sake and for the sake of our children. We owe it to them to challenge anyone who doesn't celebrate freedom and cherish it, and work to remove any public official who refuses to uphold his or her solemn oath to defend the Constitution. We need to start being a beacon again for people who crave freedom, rather than a reviled enemy of many nations. You adults, you owe it to your children to leave them more than a mortgage on their lives. They don't deserve the obligation to pay the debts that we incur, and their inheritance legitimately includes individual liberty, the right to choose, self-determination, all things that are part and parcel of the American idea. For you young people, you have the biggest stake in all of this. The future is yours. You are the ones to inherit what us old fogies leave behind. You need to learn how to make the world better through freedom, and to be proud of the magnificent heritage that was wrought 237 years ago. I'm happy to see a lot of young people around the country getting involved in the liberty movement, trying to change the shape of the future. And in fact, if anyone's interested, I would be thrilled to host a youth liberty and entrepreneurship camp or a club right here at home. For all of you in the military, or who have served before, our hearts go out to you in gratitude for your devotion to this country, to this amazing, transformative idea of freedom, the foundation which made this nation great. Unfortunately, your fight is not over. I think there may be some dark times ahead for freedom in America. There is a lot of work to be done. But I also think that there is enough of a core of Americans who think that this is still the land of the free and the home of the brave, and are willing to take a stand. Freedom is worth fighting for, as those who have gone before us have proven. Let us prove to those who come after us that we are up to the challenge, that we honor those who died for freedom by ensuring that our posterity will taste its sweet nectar for generations to come. God bless you.